Alright guys, welcome to the shop. I was out plowing the other day with the Power-Trac and the bucket dug into some soft ground and we blew out one of the hydraulic pistons. So the tractor rode up over the bucket, sorry for the poor light, but on the other piston, I've already removed it, it blew out right at that oil seal. I added as much oil as I could into the tractor to limp it back into the garage. You can see the little trail she left there. I already pulled that one off, and I've got it set up over here. All the oil's out of it. I got a rebuild kit from Power-Trac. I talked to Keith, and he sent me a kit. It arrived pretty quickly. It only took about 2 days to New Hampshire from West Virginia. And we're going to dig into this and see what it takes to rebuild this double-acting lift cylinder from the Power-Trac. You can see here's the piston. Someone else has been into this already, which really is surprising because the tractor's only got about 450 hours on it. But either way, we will attempt to rebuild this cylinder here. Here's the rebuild kit that I got from Power-Trac. I ordered 3 of these because there are 3 cylinders all the same on here. I believe they're part number R026, if you can read that, but they were $32 a piece and then $28 to ship from Virginia, which we had to have it, so I guess it is what it is, and it's snowing again right now. So got some tools here that we don't usually see in the garage. Hopefully that's gonna do it to get it off. I got this 1/2-inch extension I'm gonna slide in here just to help with stabilization. I do kind of think I'm probably gonna have to put it in the vise, but let's give her a go and see if we can get the cylinder apart. Oh, she's not budging. So we didn't go to the vise. I actually ended up putting the bottom pin back on the tractor and just using that to stabilize it. I was able to crack it free at that point. So let's just finish it up right here. Now that it's freed up some. It's still, there we go. It's still pretty tight. I imagine that we're going to have a lot of oil come out of this, even though I compressed the piston as far as I could with it on the tractor. We've got one O-ring on the cap here. Now it's starting to leak a little oil out of the bottom as we let that compression go. Let's see what we can do to get this piston back out. She's pretty stubborn. That was under a lot more compression than I thought it was going to be. I ended up just standing on this extension and picking up on it. It did come out. Not too much oil left in it, just a little bit. But it looks like now there's a little bit of oil left down in there. I don't know if you can see in there or not. But I don't see anything of consequence inside the cylinder. And then on the piston itself, we've got this nut that holds on the piston and these 2 larger white O-rings. Judging from what's in this kit, the big black one looks like the seal. The 2 big white ones look like they belong right here. Obviously the wiper is going to go in the top of this cap. But we've got a very tiny black O-ring and then a medium white O-ring that I haven't seen a spot for yet. So I'll be watching to find out where those come in. All right, so we're gonna take this guy apart. It's using a 15/16 socket. I still got that 1/2 inch extension in here to support it, and just a ratchet. Let's see if that's enough to take it off. One of the things I love about Power-Trac is they're very good to the DIY guys. They don't have there we go, any sort of process to go through a dealership, which some people might like, some people might not. The problem is something like this. I didn't get torque spec on that. I got no installation instructions, but it's a fine threaded bolt, not sure what size. Screw that piston off here. There she comes. Nothing much to that. We've got our 2 white O-rings, and looks like the little black O-ring goes right inside here. And let's slide this cap off. Yep, and if you can see inside there's the white O-ring. So I'm going to grab a set of picks. I should have had those already, but I'll grab my picks and I will be right back. We're leaking some oil here, so I'm going to put a rag underneath it. Same thing on this end. Let's see, I'm going to start with the piston. See if we can get that. That O-ring comes off nice and easy. Put that in the scrap pile. Clean up on there a little bit. Should probably be using a cleaner rag. Next time I get up, I'll grab one. Well, let's open our packet of random gaskets here. And we'll check our size. I get the new one in my hand. Doesn't look quite as thick as the old one. But it does seem to be the right diameter. Alright, so that's good. Move that aside, and let's move on to our cap. Now I'm hoping that we're going to find a definite broken spot in this wiper when I remove it, because that's where the oil was just shooting out of like a geyser. I'm just picking around the edge. See if we can loosen her up. It's definitely not pressed in there, but it's definitely not coming out too readily. Just a word of caution, these pieces are aluminum. You can see how soft this is. It got marred up pretty good from the pipe wrench. Not just from my pipe wrenching, but from someone else's. I will be a little more careful putting that back together. This piece, also aluminum. You can see where it's been a little marred up from, I don't know if it's from bottoming out. I bet that was from bottoming out when the tractor ran up on top of it. So, yeah, just be cautious of these pieces. It's back to getting this piece out. Definitely in there better than I thought it was going to be. Loosened it up from the outside. Now, oh, there she comes, just like that. Looking at the cap itself, I don't see any damage, which is good. And then looking at the wiper, let's clean her up. She's definitely crusty. And I do see a notch. I don't know if you can, I don't know if that notch is visible right there on the top. Well, now there's 4 of those. That's, looks like those are meant to be there. So, I guess I'm surprised to see that that's not damaged. Oh, and there's our white one inside there, so I'm going to get that out. Our white O-ring on the inside, and then the big one on the outside. That came off pretty easy. They look pretty clean. They are a little hard, but it is cold out here too. All right, so that one's all cleaned up. And all I see on this one are the two big white O-rings. So let's get those out of here. Maybe. Let's try a hook instead. There we go. One. And two. Alright, so there's our old set. Here's our piston and cap all disassembled. I'm going to take these to the parts washer first and clean those up a bit before we reassemble. I think I'm also going to get some clean rags and a little bit of oil to lubricate this as it goes back together. Alright, back from the parts washer. We've got the parts all cleaned up. Doesn't look like any real damage. Again, you can see where this piston might have contacted the bottom of the cylinder. But doesn't look too terrible. This guy, the cap, you can see some scoring on the inside. And some of it's pretty heavy. Enough to cut your fingernail on. I don't think I'm going to worry about it. You can see that there's no bad scoring on the piston. That's nice and clean. So obviously it was just something that was going to dig into the aluminum. I'm just going to make a note, next time I need to do this, I am probably going to have Power-Trac send me a new cap. Unless, of course, I've got my lathe up and running by then. And this could be something I machine right here. But until then, let's put it back together. So I've also just got a little parts tray. I put some oil in it. That's just full synthetic 530. I keep that in bulk to use in our vehicles. So that's just handy here. I had a lot of it kicking around. The tractor actually uses 10W40 as a hydraulic fluid, so this is very similar to the hydraulic fluid that will be installed in the tractor itself. So we'll start with our big O-rings here for the piston. They are much tighter and much more flexible than the ones that came off, for sure. Let's work that on there. There's no sharp edges on the edge of this piston, so I'm not concerned about it ripping it or scoring it. These seem to be on there fairly well. Okay, well, piston's pretty much done. Well, I think this is going to be a little more challenging. We got to get this white O-ring up inside. She snapped right in there. Actually, that went a lot easier than I thought it might. And then we've got our wiper assembly, which... So this wiper is definitely different from the one that came out. Or this one, the old one, is just very worn. No, the old one has these notches in it. It's very strange. The new one does not. I'm going to check the diameter here. It does seem to fit the piston all right. Well, trying to decide which way it goes in there. It came out like this, didn't it? Putting the old one back in here just to check. No, it didn't. It came out the other way. Okay, so it looks like we're going back in that way as well. Get rid of that. Make sure I didn't get this too dirty. No, she looks good. A little bit of oil. And this is being installed with the, should have done that first. This is getting installed with the thin piece up, if that makes sense. So you can see the thick piece goes into the channel on the inside of this. So we're going to stick it in there. With the thin side up, it looks like. I don't love the way that fits, but that's what we got. And then the last O-ring. We're going to slide on the outside. And that should be all it takes here. So we'll reassemble our piston now. I'm going to make sure we put our cap on first, because you can't do that after. Ooh, and that new O-ring on the inside is very tight. She's definitely on there. Then we'll put our piston on. Just like that. And you know, I don't think that scoring, I'll put a little lube on this nut. Now that I look at it, I don't think that scoring is from contacting the bottom of the piston. Obviously there's a nut in the way. It's actually from the nut and from the tools that are being used to put it on and off is all that scoring's from. So again, I don't have any torque specs on any of this. It wasn't super difficult to get off, obviously, by hand with just a 12-inch ratchet. So that's how we'll put her back together. Again, I've got my extension in there, and that's just holding stability on the system. I don't want to crank on it too hard. And that's about all I'm real comfortable giving her. That's nice and tight. Okay. Well, let's reassemble this piston. And I'm just looking down inside it. A little bit of oil left in there. It's pretty clean. I don't know how much you guys can see. Let's put her back together. Being careful not to drag the new O-rings across the threads. It's a real tight fit though. I do expect a little oil to come popping out of this when we compress it. There's a little bit left in the bottom there. All right, I'm just going to take the dead blow and give her a couple knocks to try and... Yeah, there she is. Try and push this guy in there. Obviously, this table is not ideally suited for this operation, but it's working fine nonetheless. Oh, that was a big splat. There we go. That should do it. Tighten up our cap again, and I think I'm going to do the rest of this back on the tractor. Yeah, all in all, I think that went pretty well. So I'm going to tighten this up once it's back on the tractor. I'm not going to bother pushing, actually I'm going to push it all the way in because I don't want that air pocket. So I will fully compress this and then use the tractor hydraulics to extend it. If I leave this extended, I'm going to leave an air pocket in here, and I don't want to introduce that air into the system. So I will fully compress this once I get it on the tractor, just for stability. And then we will reattach our hoses, top off the fluid, and see how well we did. We'll see you at the tractor. We're going to get the piston on there. Put the bolt in here for safekeeping. Looks like, again, someone's been in this before me. This bolt's been slightly modified for purposes of space, it looks like. But to match the other one, we've got the bolt to the inside, the nut to the outside. And I usually would oil this, but there's plenty on it. When I took these apart, they were not super tight. So even though I'm going to use the impact gun to speed this process up, I am going to put it on the lowest setting. The bolt takes an inch and an eighth socket, and I've got it on a little wobbly extension just to get around the corner. This tractor has forced me to buy a set of giant wrenches that I never thought that I'd need before. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight or any of those types of stores. These came from the local hardware store. There we go. Let's try putting it on instead of taking it off. There we go. And then again, I'm going to use half-inch breaker bars to get a little better purchase on it, but I am going to try and compress that again. I totally expect them to get covered with oil. Let me grab a rag and put over that. Only because I've done this before and got covered with oil. So let's see if that's enough to be able to compress this. Oh, there it is. Oh, all right, we're all the way down. Didn't get covered with oil. That rag out of here. All right. What we'll do now is reattach our hoses, even though this is in a position I don't really want it to be in. I'll use this S-hook just to keep it up out of the way while I put the hoses on. For now, I think that's as much as we need to do. I'm going to let the boom down on the tractor, and we'll see if we can get that piston reconnected. Well, not much to see. If you can get in there with me, we did hook the piston back up. If you can see it, I didn't bother filming it because it was just aligning it with the jack, getting it lined up and putting that bolt in. One of the things I neglected to do when I came back in from rescuing the tractor was to plug it back in. So the battery is a little under and it is cold. I'm going to plug it back in, have some dinner, and we'll come back, start it up, and check for leaks after that. She's had the heater blown on her for about 20 minutes. If you still hear her humming, it's on the battery charger. We're going to use that to help boost the start because the battery is due for replacement, but it's on the list. Let's start her up and see if she works. Well, looks like we fixed one problem, but found another. So I'm gonna take those hoses apart and see where we end up. All right, guys, well, not sure if you could have seen that on the video of the machine running or not, but it looks like our rebuild on the hydraulic cylinder was successful, even though I didn't tighten that down. Oh, shit, I gotta do that. But the other problem that we have is this hose right here seems to be blown out at the swivel, and that was pushing a lot of oil out too. So the good news is it's just a hydraulic fitting. The bad news is that this hose goes down through here, kind of into uncharted territory. So I'm going to figure out where that hose goes, how long it is, and how to get to it. But that's another video. It looks like I'm going to call it quits on the cylinder rebuild though. So thanks for watching.